At the time, everybody was auditioning for it because it was kind of, going to be the biggest thing since sliced bread. And the audition scripts, it was interesting because usually when you audition for something, you get maybe 1 or 2 scenes. There were 6 scenes for Shortland Street, and we were told to learn all of them. So I think that was Katerina Denave's way of kind of weeding people out, people who got freaked out by learning too many lines, because she knew that learning lines would be so important for this show because we just get through so many scenes. So yeah, that was the main thing, was learning all those scenes. And when it came to audition, I remember I was hungover, and that it really helped because it just killed all the nerves and whatever, and I just had exactly the right amount of energy. So I think that's what helped me. Yeah. He's very positive. He has enormously high expectations of life. He thinks he owns the world, but in a benevolent way. He doesn't like telling people what to do, but by the same token, he cannot be told what to do. He just, yeah, he looks on the world as his oyster, his playground. He doesn't play low status to anyone, The high expectations means that he is frequently frustrated and disappointed by life, aggravated by people not doing what he wants them to do. But that's kind of fun to play too, but it's not an admirable quality, but it is a fun one to play. And his snobbery, of course, that's fun to play. There is the potential on this show to learn so much. Because you are forever being challenged, exactly as you say. You'll get comedic storylines, and then deeply tragic storylines, and maybe even the odd action storyline, which we've been shooting recently for the 20th anniversary. The challenge is to really open yourself up and give yourself as fully as you can to each of those different requirements, and not to just kind of use an acting shorthand or kind of fall back on habits to coast through, really just to try to open yourself up and be really present as that character in those situations and kind of see what happens, and not just, as I say, take acting shortcuts. And that is a real challenge, because we're shooting so much that can really happen, that you can just kind of, call in the shorthand, call in the old habits. And if you've been there a long time, like me, the directors are slow to call you on it, because you know all your lines, you're getting through the scene, because they've just got so much to think of. If you're a younger actor, you'll get more input. So you really have to police a lot of that yourself. So it is important to watch the show and think, I'm getting a bit bored with me doing that all the time and that kind of stuff, or, I don't buy that. Try to be a bit critical of yourself. Maybe I was once, but I try, anything to do with that, I really try, I just try not to let it into my head at all. Any of that second guessing about what people think when they see me, what their opinion is of me, either me or my character, any of that kind of second guessing, I just try not to engage any of that at all, and just focus on just telling the story in as compelling and as entertaining a way as I can. Just focus on the acting and the story you're trying to tell and the people you're trying to tell it with. I always just try to keep my focus there. And anything about all of that stuff, anything to do with what the magazines are saying, or what overhearing conversations, or awards and all of that stuff, I really just try not to give that any value. But by the same token, it's nice when people come up, and I always appreciate people coming up and saying they like the show, and I like to be respectful and polite, because I mean, they're giving you something, that exchange. They're giving you something. They're giving you a compliment, and it's rude to ignore it or bat it away. I always try to receive that in a gracious way. But the one I can't get out of my head, and that comes and haunts me in my dark hours, is the cast of, see, I'm having difficulty talking about it now. The cast of Shortland Street put on a musical, right? And I had to do a rap. And that was just very painful and embarrassing and so humiliating, yeah. But the only kind of good thing about, well, it wasn't a good thing, but the only ameliorating factor in all of this was that the Shortland Street musical, that we spent all this money rehearsing and all these costumes. It was this big production number that we never ever do. It screened on September the 12th, 2001. So nobody watched it. Everybody was watching the news. Of course, you know, September 11, everyone was watching the news. It was Shortland Street's lowest rating episode ever, like bar none, and by a long way. And that was the Shortland Street musical where I had to do a rap. So, yeah. I think it's fantastic. I think it's brilliant, you know, in so many ways. It's just such an important part of New Zealand now, you know, the amount of people that I come in contact with who just love watching it, and it's just an important part of their lives, you know, they've grown up with it. And I think the writers do a terrific job of really reflecting what's happening in New Zealand at any given time, and I think that's a real value, you know, of Kiwis being able to see themselves reflected back. You know, if it was some kind of fantasy version of New Zealand, it wouldn't have nearly the same value. But it's well, obviously it is a fantasy version, but as far as they can, the writers just really try to keep things authentic and relevant, and I think that is its real value. You know, people feel tuned into it. A cover story was the TV show I did between my stints on Shortland Street, and I had a kind of recurring guest role on that, and it was great because I was working with Tim Balme and Katie Wolf, who were like old friends, but they'd cast me because of seeing me on Shortland Street, where I was just, you know, a super confident guy, just kind of walking anywhere and boss everyone around. So they cast me in that kind of role on Cover Story, and unfortunately, in my first couple of scenes, I wasn't like that. I was all kind of freaked out because it was this totally new environment. You know, I was like someone who'd been institutionalized and suddenly let loose on the street, and I just wanted to go back to my old institution. But I got over that quickly enough, and they reshot the first couple of scenes, and everything was sweet. Oh, and I was Simone Kessel's love interest, so that's enough to inspire anyone to a good performance. That was kind of my one film I've only ever done. But at drama school, I had a picture of John Hurt on my locker to inspire me. John Hurt, the actor, because I just thought, I still think he's brilliant, but at the time, he was like a god to me. And so I got cast in this movie, The Climb, as a priest, a very small role. And I was like, oh, who's the overseas star? And sure enough, it was John Hurt. So that was an immense thrill. I had about 3 scenes, and 2 of them were with him. So that was terrific for me. And luckily, my character just had to be intimidated and terrified of him. So that was very easy to do because I was intimidated and terrified of him. And he was lovely. He was so nice afterwards. We were very good. You were very good, like that. I think someone told him that he was my hero, so he made a point of making me feel good. I'm happy to stay on Shortland Street for as long as they'll have me, because the other thing I do is I write. I've had 3 separate plays, have had professional productions, and I've got kind of other little TV things that I'm working on with various people and other theatre things. So I would be very happy to just keep acting on Shortland Street and take time off and do other projects that I've written. That would be an ideal life for me.